It always feels like there's never enough storage space, like in every house nowadays. But there's one secret storage space that almost every home has. Today, I'm gonna show you how to turn that into a storage game changer. All right, the space I'm talking about is the space right above me. The space over the garage door when the garage door is open. Most of us don't use that space at all, so it's totally wasted. It might only be a foot tall for you. It might be 2 feet tall. No matter how short it is though, it is wasted space, and we can use it to our advantage. So step one is we need to measure how much space we're going to have. And for that, I'm gonna partially open the garage door like this. And you can see at this point, it's kind of the apex. It's the highest point where the top of my garage door is ever gonna get. After that point, it doesn't get any higher than this. And so I can measure between that and the ceiling, and that's how much space I have to work with. In my case, these ceilings are not very high. I have about 10¼ inches to work with. That's it, which means I can't use very big totes. But now by measuring that space, I know how big of a tote I could get. I also went ahead and I measured the length here, and it's just shy of 8 feet. And so I could go with 8 feet and it might stick out just a little bit. Oh, here comes my son. Where was I? Okay, so I've got about 8 feet lengthwise here where a bin might stick out a little bit. And then this direction, I found that between the brackets where I could run bins without interrupting anything, I have about 7 feet on each half of the garage. So I have over 7 feet between the garage door opener and the other rail on each side. That's a lot of space. And so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take that information, I'm gonna run over to Lowe's, I'm gonna see what totes they have in stock, and if they have something that works well, I'll pick up some of those, and that'll tell me kind of how many different rails I can have, because that'll tell me the spacing. So we're gonna pick the bins and then we'll measure the bins. Let's go. Okay, I just got back from Lowe's where I went and I found these totes. They're just over 9 inches tall, which is perfect. And then while I was there, I went ahead and did the math based on their width and their length. And what I can do is I can fit 3 lengthwise on each rails, on each set, of 2 rails. I can fit 3 rows of them on each side. So I could have 18 totes on my ceiling above my garage door. Now, they're not super deep totes. I told you they're only about 9 inches tall, but I'm okay with that. I can live with that. I can actually put a lot of stuff in these, and it's actually kind of nice because then each individual tote isn't like super duper heavy and hard to manage. Now, you might wonder, by putting those up there and sliding them in 3 deep, isn't that gonna be kind of a pain to get to? The answer is yes, it would be kind of a pain to get to, but here's what we're gonna do. One is the stuff that we're gonna put in these totes is the stuff that we're not gonna be using very often. Maybe seasonal stuff like Christmas. And if it's Christmas stuff, I'm probably gonna have more than 1 tote's worth, right? So I can put 3 totes of Christmas in the same aisle, and then I'm not having to shuffle things around in order to get to the one that's closest to the front of the garage. And other than that, like for other ones in the very front, like front of the garage that are hardest to get to, I'll make sure it's the stuff I use the least. The other thing we're gonna do is we're gonna label the totes. I'm gonna talk about this a lot more in another video because I've got a whole concept here for garage organization that I think is gonna blow your mind. When that video is ready, we'll link to it here, but it's a reset you can do in your garage that doesn't need to take very long, an afternoon, maybe like 4 hours, but that could change everything. But now let's go back to these, the bins. So I didn't wanna use bins that had like a really flimsy, cheap build. I need bins with a decent lip here and one that's fairly strong. So I went ahead and picked these cobalt ones, and those are gonna work great. They clamp shut. The height here is gonna be just right for what I need, the height of the lip. So we'll leave a space and then we'll create some rails that these can just slide on up against the ceiling. I'm gonna show you right now. It's super easy and it's super inexpensive. I found some systems, by the way, online. I was looking for these and they make some that are made out of these aluminum rails. They're great. The cheapest one I found was like $100 with enough space for about 2 of these. The other systems I found that could hold a few more of these were more like $300 to $500 for these metal rails. We're gonna build some rails out of 2x4s and the whole thing's gonna cost us a fraction of that to store a whole bunch of these totes. Again, I can do 9 per side. Today, I only bought 6 totes for now, so I'm gonna just start by putting up 3 rails, which will give me 2 columns worth or 2 rows worth. You're gonna see it's gonna make sense. We'll start by ripping a 2x4 right down the middle. That's gonna act as like a spacer for me for these rails. It's gonna give us space for the lip and something to screw through with the 2x4s that we'll be using as the rails. It'll make a lot of sense. Just watch. All right, so now what we'll do is we'll measure the spacing for where each of the screws is gonna go in the boards to mount it to the ceiling. And then I wanna pre-drill all those holes. It's gonna make it a lot easier when I'm up there on the ceiling if I can just stick the screws right in the holes and they're pre-drilled. It's also gonna help prevent my rails from splitting, which is gonna make them structurally a lot stronger. I went ahead and I got these. These structural screws are awesome. These ones are over 5 inches long, so they're gonna be able to go through a 2x4 and then through that spacer all the way up into the joist or the stud that's up above. Let me show you what one of these looks like that. And you see it's got a nice big head on it, so it's gonna hold really, really well. But these are 5/16 of an inch, so I'm gonna use a 5/16 drill bit to drill holes for them and should be good to go. Okay, that's where they're going this way. All right, so my drill's really struggling with those structural screws. So I'm actually really glad that today, while I was at Lowe's, when I went there to buy these boards, I saw that they had their Cobalt Impact on sale. It's $50 off. Normally $150, it was only 50 or 100, I mean, so it's $99 actually. Comes with a 2 amp hour battery, their 24 volt system. I've been needing a new Impact for a while because my other one's been missing, and this is gonna be so much better and help me finish up this project a lot quicker. So we're gonna finish screwing those ones in, and then we're gonna measure the distance to the next one and get that thing up. That's gonna work. All right, now I've got the next rail ready, and what we're gonna do is the lid is actually the widest part, so I'm gonna use the lid to directly measure. I could just measure the lid and then use a tape measure, but every time we switch between measurement devices, there's a little more room for error. So I'm literally gonna hold up the lid and mark it, and that's how I'll know the spacing. And I'll leave just a little bit of extra room so that these totes can slide up there, but not so much extra room that they don't have that much to rest on. So I'm talking like 1/8 of an inch extra. So let's do that next. All right, now 1 row down. I'm gonna go ahead and put up enough for 2 more, even though I only have totes for 1 more row. I'm excited about this. And check it out. Now I've got room for actually 9 of these totes. There weren't even 9 at the store the other day. I'll probably just order the rest. I bought 6, so I filled in 6 of the spots. And this all just above my garage door. I didn't need any more shelving. I didn't need any more wall space. None of that. It's just literally, when the garage doors open, it's totally hidden. It's amazing. So again, I have another video coming up really soon where I'm gonna talk about this awesome new garage organization system, but one aspect of that system, it's only a little piece of it, but one aspect of it is I'm actually gonna make lists of the things I put into each of these totes and store those lists on a device, and then I can make a QR code for each one of my bins that I'll put, these ones I'll put on the bottom. The bins that are on the walls, I'll put them on the side. And then I can have a label with a QR code. And then literally I scan it with my phone. It'll pull it up in an app and show me exactly what's in that bin without me having to pull a bunch of bins out and open them up. So they'll be well labeled, but also I'll know the inventory. It's gonna be incredible. But again, that's only part of the system, so you're gonna need to watch that video. All right, so now literally with 6 2x4s and some screws, all in, those screws are kind of pricey, but all in, I'm about $35 for what I've built so far. And that's so much cheaper than it would probably cost me between $300 and $500 to be able to get any sort of off-the-shelf system that I would still have to install myself, and it'd be just as much work. And this is totally easy, totally custom. You can do this yourself. I'm confident you can. So if you want to make better use of the space that you have in your garage, I encourage you to do something like this. But I'd love to hear what you think about this project, what you think about this in general in the comments below. Is this smart? Does this seem stupid to you? Could you see yourself doing something just like this? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're looking for more garage organization tips, for more DIY home projects, that kind of stuff, that's what we're all about here at Fixter. So you're gonna want to subscribe to this channel and check out our other videos. We'll see you there.